President-elect Donald Trump wants hardline lawyer David Friedman as ambassador to Israel. Friedman has a number of controversial ideas that deviate from U.S. policy over the past few decades. Let's discuss it. Joining us now is former independent senator and former Democratic vice presidential candidate Joe Lieberman. Senator, great to have you here in studio.
Good to be here. Good morning.
What do you think of David Friedman?
Full disclosure at the outset, David Friedman is a personal friend of mine. When I left the Senate, I became senior counsel in a law firm in which he's one of the founding partners. So,
and you're the perfect person to talk to.
Exactly. I mean, it was, so I like him a lot. I think he's extremely capable. I don't agree with him on everything he's ever said, but I think the most important thing is that President-elect Donald Trump wants David Friedman to be the ambassador to Israel. In other words, he has the confidence of the president-elect.
Well, look, Mr. Friedman has said a lot of controversial things. So let's, his positions on things. So let's dive into some of those. First, he wants to move the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. What do you think?
So I'm for that. I mean, let me say generally, before I get to that, that I think you're going to find in the weeks ahead in the confirmation process on David Friedman that it's going to be very clear that he and President Trump want to be part of achieving peace between Israelis and Palestinians, and that some of the things he said really don't reflect what he believes. And I think you'll find along the way that he will express some regrets, not about this position, about
I know,
moving
but
the
I
capital.
think what you're referring to is the two-state solution.
No. No, I don't, maybe, but
he's against that.
Yeah.
He's opposed to the two-state solution, and he's said very controversial things. The people who support it, J Street, the organization that is pro-Israel, that calls itself pro-peace, and that supports it. Let's just go right there, right now, because this is the most controversial. He has said, J Street are J Street supporters really as bad as Capos? The answer actually is no. They are far worse than Capos, Jews who turned in their fellow Jews in the Nazi death camps. They are just smug advocates of Israel's destruction, delivered from the comfort of their secure American sofas. It's hard to imagine anyone worse. This has gotten a lot of attention.
Yes, it has. I totally disagree with that statement and find it unfair and offensive. And I've said this to David, and I think he will make clear that that's one of the statements he regrets having made.
Really?
I believe so, but I'm going to leave it to him.
But is your understanding that he regrets that and that he would back off of that statement? Because he's been asked a couple of times and he hasn't backed off of it.
Let's see what happens. But I think he feels that he said that in the heat of the campaign in which he was really trying his hardest to advocate for Donald Trump. But let's go back.
Hold on, one last beat on this. Does Mr. Trump support a two-state solution?
Well, I don't know. I mean, incidentally, that's the important question. Because David Friedman may have a point of view, but if he's confirmed as the ambassador to Israel, he is the representative of the President of the United States.
Right.
So it's really a question of what the President of the United States has done. Let me put it this way. And to be very clear, I strongly support a two-state solution. To me, I've looked at every other alternative over the years for achieving peace between Israelis and Palestinians, and you can't do it unless you recognize the right of the Palestinians to have their own state. So here's this much I've heard President-elect Trump say. He really would like to be part of achieving the ultimate agreement between Israelis and Palestinians. Yes. You can't do that without ending up with two states.
Well, but I mean, the idea that he would choose David Friedman suggests to some that maybe he is not committed to the two-state solution, since David Friedman has been so vocal about being a critic of it.
So again, I think as this process goes on, David Friedman speaks out, he has his confirmation hearing. I think you're going to find what I believe, even though I disagree on this question of a two-state solution, that he really wants to be part of bringing peace between Israelis and Palestinians. And I think part of what's in his mind and President-elect Trump is that they don't want the United States to be in a position to be pressuring Israel to make an agreement that Israel wouldn't otherwise make. But the U.S. has, I think, an indispensable role here in trying to mediate and negotiate between Israelis and Palestinians.
Mr. Trump has even said that he would like to somehow enlist the help of his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, to help find peace in the Middle East. What do you think about that?
I think that's fine. I mean, and here's why I think it's fine. I know Jared a little bit. not a lot. He seems very capable to me. But obviously, if he's in meetings in the Middle East or meeting with leaders there, everybody's going to know that he, like David Friedman, really represents the President of the United States. So it's not just, with all respect, sort of a career foreign service officer. These are people real close to the President. And we're at a moment of opportunity in the Middle East in this sense, that it is quite clear that the relations between Israel and the Arab nations are closer than they have ever been before, particularly because they share a concern, a fear about Iran. They have common interests, but the Arab nations won't come out with this closer relationship to Israel, in my opinion, unless there's progress between the Israelis and Palestinians.
So quickly, you do support the idea of moving the embassy to Jerusalem?
I do, and I don't think it decides an issue that's undecided, which is the status of Jerusalem, and here's why. The embassy, and incidentally, I co-sponsored the bill in the 1990s, along with Senator Trent Lott, which asked for our embassy to be moved to Jerusalem. Here's why. Israel is the only country in the world, as far as I know, where we don't have our embassy in the city the host country designates as its capital. And where are we going to put it? Everybody agrees it's going to be in a part of Jerusalem that has been Israeli since the creation of the state in 1948. So it's not in land on the periphery that's in dispute in the negotiations between Israelis and Palestinians. The only reason you wouldn't, I mean, you'd have to argue against moving the embassy to Jerusalem based on the fact that you don't think there'll be Jews in Jerusalem anymore, and you know that's just not an acceptable position.
Senator Joe Lieberman, thank you. Great to talk to you this morning. Thanks for coming.
Pleasure. Be well.
You too.
Happy holy days.
You too.
Thank you.
Let's get to Chris.
All right, there's a lot to break down. Let's get the bottom line next.